Welcome to this explainer. Today we're jumping right in to audit the boundaries between law and liberty. We're going to be looking at an objective, AI-assisted legal audit of the abstracted judicial case of Dr. Chen Jingyuan. It's a fascinating stress test to see exactly how modern frameworks negotiate that massive, inherent tension between state authority and human rights. To really wrap our heads around a case this complex, we're going to use a specific narrative arc. Just picture it as concentric circles of rights. We'll start right in the center, close to home, examining the domestic law and constitutional framework. From there, we'll slowly zoom out, moving layer by layer through international covenants until we finally reach the widest circle of all, universal human rights. Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our roadmap for today. First, the judicial case study. Second, the constitutional baseline. Third, civil and political rights. Fourth, academic and cultural freedom. Fifth, the Universal Declaration. And finally, power versus dignity. It's highly structured, so it'll be super easy to follow.
Section 1. The Judicial Case Study. The abstracted case of Dr. Chen Jingyuan.
So here is the basic setup. A citizen, Dr. Chen, is facing criminal charges for online expression and academic research. And right at the heart of this, and honestly the core tension of our entire analysis today, is a massive tug of war. On one side, you have state power, which seeks to limit behavior to maintain order. On the other side, you have individual rights, which exist to protect personal freedom. How a legal system handles this delicate, often contentious balance tells you exactly how it functions in the real world.
Moving to Section 2, the constitutional baseline, the PRC Constitution.
We're anchoring our very first concentric circle right here. Article 33 of the PRC Constitution explicitly states, "The state respects and preserves human rights." We have to recognize that this is an undeniable, foundational text. It's not just some lofty philosophical ideal. Human rights protection is an explicit, binding state obligation. State power has to operate with human rights as its absolute boundary. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how systematically we can map out the friction here. When you hit someone with a vague criminal charge, like picking quarrels for a blog post, it creates an immediate clash with Article 35's guarantee of expression. First arrest, then investigate tactics? Well, those disproportionately target Article 37's liberty protections. The whole point is that the Constitution is meant to be a shield for the citizen, not just a weapon to arm the state. Section 3. Civil and Political Rights, the ICCPR Stress Test. Stepping out to our second layer, we hit the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, which turns those abstract values into strict international obligations. Think of this as a mandatory checklist for restricting rights. The law must be clear and predictable, it has to serve a legitimate public aim, like safety, and it absolutely must be necessary and proportional, meaning it causes minimal harm. And the AI analysis suggests that criminalizing Dr. Chen's expression heavily fails the strict proportionality test. Which naturally brings us to a huge question as we look at the specific procedural actions taken in this case. What exactly constitutes arbitrary detention? Article 9 defines it incredibly precisely. Arbitrary detention is any deprivation of liberty that is excessive, unnecessary, or disproportionate to the actual risk, even if it's formally legally documented. It's not just about acting without any law. If authorities are using a zero evidence initiation or a first arrest then find evidence pattern, that severely violates this international standard of proportionality. Zooming out again, Section 4, Academic and Cultural Freedom, the ICESCR perspective. Expanding to our third layer gives us a completely unique angle. There is a massive distinction between factual falsehoods, which are rumors you can actually objectively verify, and academic or artistic expression. You just can't run a true or false fact check on a theory or an emotion. Equating independent academic research and cultural participation with criminal rumors is incredibly dangerous. And this brilliantly illustrates what Article 15 is all about. It explicitly protects the freedom indispensable for scientific research. Academic freedom isn't just a fun personal perk. It has massive institutional significance for societal progress. And it absolutely should not be subject to political interference. Which brings us to Section 5, the Universal Declaration, the philosophical bedrock. We've reached the climax of our concentric circles, the 1948 Universal Declaration of Human Rights. All human beings are born free and equal in dignity and rights. That establishes human dignity as the ultimate moral source. It is the definitive limit on state power. The law is meant to serve human dignity, never the other way around. When you synthesize all of these frameworks together, the AI models universally identified a glaring issue. Things like disproportionate intervention, arbitrary detention, and a lack of a fair public trial create a systemic risk of procedural failure. Basically, prioritizing absolute state control over procedural justice causes a structural failure in the very system claiming to protect rights. The procedural insult ends up overriding human dignity. Section 6. Conclusion. Power versus dignity. Let's bring all these frameworks together. So the crucial point is this synthesizing legal consensus. Freedom is the ontology. It's the default state of being, and power is the exception that has to be strictly justified. Rights are the goal, and governance is just the means to get there. Ultimately, the state must be governed by the Constitution. It can't merely use the law as a weapon to govern the people. I'll leave you with this final, provocative thought to ponder. If legal procedures are inverted to become a mechanism for control rather than a shield for individual rights, how can any society ensure that human dignity remains above state power? Recognizing these legal mechanics is the first critical step. Thanks so much for joining us for this explainer, and we'll see you next time.